Now that we have our Get Started page created, we are going to now hook up the sign in to Get Started. So the idea is when we click this Get Started, as I say before, let's go back this way, enter. So there it is, click. We should go to a login page here. So this login page will have a few things that are important to notice. One, we have this option here. If the person wants to actually create an account, they don't have an account created yet, so they can't log in, right? Or sign in. They can click here and then we can change the view so that the users can actually enter a valid email and a password so that they can create an account. Now, these accounts will be created in Firebase. Right? We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so let's put this infrastructure in place. So back to our Get Started page, what we need to do is inside of Onpressed, this is where we are going to move or show a new page called Login. So inside of a curly braces there, I'm going to use a navigator to navigate, right? Navigator, use the push method. In this case, I'm going to pass the context and I'm going to pass the routing. So for that, I'm going to use the material page route. So the material page route allows us to pass in a builder. So in this case here, what you can do, you say control space, is going to load options that we can use. So because it's going to be just one line, I don't need to have the full block. I can use the arrow function like this. So hit enter and voila. So what's going to be? It's going to be login page, which you've guessed it, we haven't created yet. Okay, let's put a semicolon here to finalize our statement. All right, let's go ahead and create this login page. Instead of a stateless, it's going to be stateful widget because we want to carry a state of this widget because we're going to have a form and there are going to be a few other things that we need to keep track of this state so we know exactly. For instance, if they click here, we're going to move this, change this to say sign in, create account. This is going to be for creating account. So we're going to make a stateful widget. So we're going to say ST like this, and you can see we have the option of stateless and stateful. So stateful, that's what we need. Hit enter. I'm going to call this login page like that. Enter, and there we go. Okay. All right. So we have our login page, and what are we going to do? Of course, the login page will look like this. Let's start constructing it. All right. So I'm going to put everything inside of a material widget, and the material has a child. And in this case here, I'm going to pass a container, and then this container will also have a child, and the child is going to be a column like this, okay? And we're going to have children inside there. So again, the idea is that a column, as you see, is going to be a column because we have all of these widgets that are lined up vertically. It makes sense. Now, the other thing to notice here is that we have this division of this whole screen. So you notice we have the top, middle, and bottom. And I have these colors to specify all of that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the expanded again and use the flex to say exactly this, to say we're going to divide the screen into 3 horizontal areas. So the top, middle, and bottom. So we are able to do that by using expanded. Oh, what a friendly friend of ours. So expanded, we're going to have a child here. Of course, the child is going to be a container. I'm going to say container such. I'm going to give a color. I'm going to say hex color. And I already have those colors. So I'm going to just put inside of a string. It's going to be B9C2D1. All right. Very good. So the other thing I'm going to add here is the flex because I want to make sure that this knows how much to expand. So I'm going to give it a factor of 2. I'm going to do the same thing. Let's save this real quick. I'm going to copy this exact same expand, copy, and add another one at the bottom there. The color is going to be exactly the same. Now let's see if this works. I'm going to go back here and say click, and voila. Now, why is it all of it's looking like this? Well, the reason why, because we said that both of them are flex 2 and 2, and we have all the same color. If I were to change one of these colors, we should see the difference there. Is that true? Okay, let's see. Say this is going to be C, D, E, 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 like this, and D, something random. And voila, you can see that there is indeed a difference, okay? Because we created these 2 expanded there. All right, I'm going to Command Z to go back to what we had. Okay, so what we need to do then in the middle here, this is where we're going to add the actual form, right? The sign-in form. So right in the middle here, I'm going to add a text that will say sign in, that, and I'm going to style this, a style. I'm going to use the theme of that text theme. Let's see, text theme, that text button. There's a different themes we can tap into, and I'm going to use the headline 5. The other thing you can do to speed up your development, instead of typing the whole thing, you can say H4, for instance, and it goes ahead and picks up the headline number 4. We happen to need headline 5, and that's what we need. There we go. And right below that, I'm going to add a sized box, and I'm going to have a height of about 10 because I want to give that space between the text and what it's below here. All right? Okay, let's save this, and there we go. It says sign in. That's very nice. Its color is white because we didn't add anything for the background. Notice it's going to look like something like this. So now we're going to add the actual form. All right. So for the form, I'm going to put inside of a column because remember, if you go back here, everything is laid out vertically, right? Top to bottom. So column is our friend. I'm going to say column and children here. There we go. So what are we going to do? The first thing I'm going to add actually is going to be a sized box because I want to control the size of this entity here, right? We have everything laid out. So in this case, I'm going to add a width. This is going to all be manually, let's say 300. And the height is also going to be about 300. And the child, because size box takes in a child, which means the area that we are creating here, 300 by 300, we can put anything, a widget that is. So in this case here, we have to think a little bit because this is the area where we're going to either have a create account or in this case, a sign in, right? So here we can create account or we can sign in. The idea is very simple. We're going to have a button that we're going to create in a second here, which is this create account, right? Which is then going to be attached to the state of this entire view, this entire page to see whether or not we have clicked to say to create account. If that's the case, then it's going to populate the create account fields or form, or if it's sign in. So it's going to show the sign in form. Does it make sense? So for now, what I'm going to do, let's put a text here that says form goes here. Okay, let's save. Okay, form goes here. That's very good. That means notice now we have this very nicely separated entity here, which looks pretty much like this. We'll check everything out and make it all look good. So let's go ahead and add the actual button because we need this button here that will say either already have an account or create an account. Nonetheless, it is still a button, right? So let's do that. So what I'm going to do right about here, I'm going to add a text button icon like this. And then let's add icons, portrait, rounded, this. And then for the label is going to be something, of course, it has to pass a text, which will say create account. Save that. But we're also going to style it a little bit here. So I'm going to say style. I'm going to use the text button dot style from, and in this case here, I'm going to go back and say primary color is going to be hex color. And I already have all these colors. You just copy, say FD5B28 like that. And then I'm going to pass text style, font size of about 18. And font style, make it italic. So italic, let's see, say italic, like that. Okay, save this. There we go, create account. Very nice, looking really, really good. Okay, so we have that button here. So notice the only thing that changes when we click here, the idea is that we change whether we're creating the account or whether we need to sign in. And that's what we are going to attach next. So we're going to create two forms. One is going to be create account. The other one is sign in, which will be swapped depending on whether they clicked here. And we're going to toggle that selection, which is going to be a state, and we'll know what to show. That's coming up in the next video.